Yeah, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Couple things before we start. We have a new sample pack on our website. I'll put all the links in the description. It's 15 bucks and it helps us out a lot. We're trying to release a lot of new music and do a lot of new creative stuff with this channel. And all right, so I do a lot of browsing on Facebook Marketplace, and a couple weeks ago I came across a post that was a person selling two Zoom SampleTrak ST-224 samplers, which are supposed to be comparable to the SP-202. They're selling both of them for 150 bucks broken. So I decided that I was going to grab them and see if I could fix them, because I already had kind of an inkling of what's going on inside, what the pad situation would be, because their post did say that the pads were quote unquote hard, and in my mind that meant either hard to activate or just probably not working. So basically I thought while I was doing this whole thing, I should film it so people could get kind of an idea what's inside this machine. It really wasn't a bad repair. Both machines are actually 100% working now. So I figured I'd do a little teardown, and because some people don't open these things up, and I've always had a curiosity about electronics. So the first thing I'll say is that these two units were disgusting. They were filled with like smoker's tar, and they had burn marks on them. They had all sorts of stuff going on. So I decided I was going to grab them, and if they worked out, they worked out. If they didn't, $150 for two machines isn't really the worst gamble you could make. So in this part of the video, I'm running through the basic teardown. There's actually a lot less to it than I thought there would be. There's only two PCB boards, a bunch of screws. You got to take out the top PCB first, and then it'll get you access to the bottom one. I wanted to also take a look at these machines and see if there's anything crazy wrong with them. One of them had liquid spilt into it, and it also needed a tacked switch replacement. But I keep a stockpile of tack switches because I have a lot of MPCs and I do my own repairs on those. So I was surprised to find out that the tack switches that fit the MPC also fit the tack switch portion of the bottom PCB that interfaces with the clicky buttons. So that was kind of a win. I was able to get that repair done and repair all the pads for about 15 bucks. So super cheap to do, not that difficult, definitely not the most difficult electronic thing I've repaired. All right, so lifting this thing up, if you take a look at the pads, they're all rubber, and they have kind of a hollow perimeter. What that does is it acts kind of clicky when you press it in. There's like a little tactile feedback. But what I did notice is on the PCB where the pad actually makes contact with the board, you'll notice that there's they're kind of like parallel line, almost like a grid where the pads will rest. And I got to thinking, that's probably conductive. And before I took it out for this video, I did do a little testing, and everything fired up, so there were no power issues. So what I needed to do at this point was get in there and start cleaning. All right, so just for anybody that's going to attempt some stuff like this, what's in that cap is 99% iso alcohol, and 99% iso is safe to use on electronics like this because there's so little water content in it that it can't hurt it. So what I did here is I'm testing to see if the contact paint on the circuit is going to come off with ISO, and it didn't, which is a good thing. So after getting that kind of sorted out, I decided that I was going to give the entire machine kind of a wipe down, try to kill some of the leftover old cigarette smell off of it. All right, so I wanted to do a little maintenance on the inputs, give them a little clean, so I used some DeoxIT D5, which is really good for audio inputs. I didn't want to go crazy shooting it in there, so I just put some on a Q-tip and kind of rubbed it around. DeoxIT is an incredible cleaner, but you have to, there's a couple different versions of it, and you have to use the correct one for each application. So for the edit jog wheel kind of thing down there, I used, and for the pots on top, I used, there's a DeoxIT Fader version, which is a cleaner and also a little bit of lubricant. So you shoot it on the pot or whatever moving part you're using it on Fader, and it clean it out, and like it'll work the material, and it'll just make everything a little bit better. So if you have a stuck or really gritty pot, this can help out with it. Just make sure you use the right one for the right application. All right, so the basic first clean on the pads. I always like to do pads with Windex, and I'll hit them with ISO after that if it's not cleaning what I need off the bottom. But the reason I use standard blue Windex is alcohol can dry out rubber like this. So if you want longevity in your pads, it's better to use like Windex and just get in there and scrub them. Like even on my MPC pads, anything that has a rubber pad, if I'm gonna clean it, it's always Windex. So I wanted to give it a quick base clean and see if there was any carbon paint or carbon coating left on the bottom of these pads, because that's what causes the signal to be input when the pad is pressed. So after Windex, I used a little alcohol to see if we could get any stuff off the bottom of the pads, and pulling that Q-tip up, it was definitely dirty. So I basically just bathed these in ISO. I order 99% ISO from Amazon by like the case, because I work on so much stuff like this. So I'm gonna let this sit, break down some of the leftover coating that's on the bottom of these pads, and we'll be able to replace that coating with a like a higher heavier duty like keypad repair paint. I absolutely made an entire goddamn mess when I was doing this whole video. Like I kept spilling stuff. It was fun. Just to reiterate about the alcohol on pads thing, I'm only doing it this way to get the residue and leftover stuff off the bottom. For normal cleaning, like maintenance cleaning, always use Windex. Just last time I'll say it, but trust me. Now that the pads are all dried up, the 99% ISO dries really fast, so you can move on to the next step pretty quick. This product is called KEYPADFIX, and from what I could read off of the packaging, it's a carbon-based paint designed for like punch pads for like security locks and stuff like that. What I will say about this product is you have to really mix and shake it, and then spill it all over your desk eventually, like I do in this video. But it costs about 15 bucks, and if you're dealing with any piece of equipment like this that works particularly like in this fashion, this can help you fix everything. If you have a lot of non-sensitive pads or pads that aren't triggering, see, there we go, gotta spill it. You gotta waste like $7 of that whole little jar. At this point, I'm really just happy that I bought a project mat for doing stuff like this. A couple other tips is when you apply this paint, you want to go for a super thin coat. You don't have to be super, you don't have to be in the lines like super intricately, but just get a nice little layer on each pad cell. It takes about 2 hours for the pad to dry and a full 24 hours for the full cure. So for these particular instruments, or these two samplers, I waited around 2 hours before installing the pads to test to see if they worked. And then after testing, I didn't take it apart again. I just left it there for 24 hours, didn't touch it, and everything cured and everything worked perfectly. Like, these pads are like sensitive now, which is awesome. So when I was doing the first couple layers, I wanted to make sure I let it dry, and then I did another really thin layer, no bumps, no anything like that. And it worked incredibly well. All right, so now that the initial drying is done for the pad paint, you can take a look. It looks a little bit lighter gray than the actual pads themselves, so that's good visual confirmation that it's there. We can start putting everything back together. This machine was incredibly easy to reassemble. The pads have a dedicated slot they go into. The other cool thing is like 90% of the buttons on these units are these pad sheets. So I was able to get everything working just by reapplying some carbon paint. Now, once you get those back in and you start laying down the other PCBs, this first one's really easy to line up because there's guide holes in the middle with like guide posts. Get that one down first. I like to screw in the corners to like secure everything and make sure it's in the right place. And once you get that one screwed in, the top one can be a little bit more finicky. I find it works better if you lay it flat and then push it up so that everything slots correctly in the back of the machine. If you're working on one of these, another tip I have is if you have trouble getting the top PCB to slide where all the inputs and outputs are correctly into where they need to go, these cables might need to be just kind of like guided up to the top right and around. But if it's not anything crazy complicated that you need to do. So you can watch me struggle with it until I figure out like the right way it's supposed to go. So once you get that seated in, you'll know because all the holes will line up, everything will look good. Just start putting it back together, same way you went in. Sometimes when I'm working on machines, I didn't have to with these because they're actually pretty simple. There's not a lot of screws or any like crazy parts to them, so I didn't need to take a picture every time I took something off. But normally that's a process I'll do if I'm working on something a little bit more complicated. So here's something really interesting I found out about this machine as I was working on it, because I have two of them. I assumed that they were going to be the same, but I noticed that the second machine, the back plate doesn't have the two holes in the middle. It just has a flat back plate that takes 4 screws on each side. Or 4 screws around the corner, sorry. And just little quality of life upgrades. Since I wanted to use both of these, I decided that I was going to take these crumbling foam feet off of them and put some like rubber grippier ones so they wouldn't slide around on my table. It was pretty easy to get them off. I started with a knife, but eventually just a flathead screwdriver and some ISO did the trick.
I had the best fucking night of my entire fucking life.
So now, like, the best part of any electronics project or repair is turning it back on to see if you smoke the whole thing. Which in this case, I got lucky. Both these units are working. Full input, output, everything is perfect. But it's always kind of a rush when you first finish a repair and you want to see if you made the problem better or completely ruined it. I think there's like a lot of character in this machine. I really like the cigarette burn on the special button. I had to double test that to make sure it worked, but in the end, it's all good. It's totally working. I might 3D print another button for it. I'm not sure if I want to put that much effort in, but we'll see. So yeah, just doing a little test of some of the sounds, making sure everything works. It's actually, like, these are the samples that, like, I couldn't get any of these pads to trigger when I first fired them up. These are actually the samples that whoever I bought this from was working on. Some of them are kind of cool. There's not a lot in there because this does take an external smart media card, so neither of them had one in it, so I had to order a couple. I also, at this point, when this video was being recorded, had no idea how this machine works. I do have a bit of an idea how it works now, so I'll be doing a video on like whether it's worth your time. I certainly thought it was worth my time because I got a fun project out of it, and I feel like I made out a little bit for what I paid for them. So these are my samples. So playing off Koala, I'm just recording them in to test the input. And I'm driving it like super hot on purpose because I've heard that you can do this on this machine and it sounds pretty good. So as you'll notice, all the buttons I'm hitting now are working correctly. And I know I didn't show it busted before, but I can assure you that I was pretty tight about the fact that I couldn't get any of these buttons to work when I fired them up initially, so I thought I wasted money. See, this is when I started noticing that some of the buttons were still being a little weird. So I ended up taking the machine apart again cleaning those contacts on the PCB and adding a little bit more conductive paint, and everything worked out in the end. So again, I fully didn't understand how this machine functions, so I didn't know right off the bat that when you hit the pad button on the right-hand side, that allows you to kind of pick a sub-pad menu for what you want that function to do. So I wasn't sure if it was me not operating the machine correctly, or if it was actually like that pad needed a little bit more cleaning. I did some more detail cleaning on the front. This, again, isn't as clean as it is now. It's like I got it up to where I don't feel gross touching it. So exceptionally worthwhile. Also, somehow I managed to pull back the original like factory samples, and they're wild. They're so dated. So when I couldn't figure this out, it was back to the drawing board. I took the machine apart one more time and took a look at the contacts, and it turned out some of the old carbon paint that was just sloshing around inside there, I missed, and it was kind of stuck to the contact portion of the PCB board where the pad meets the actual circuit. And I pulled that stuff off, gave it another wash with the ISO, and it was all good. Thanks again for all the followers and everybody that reaches out and has conversations with us in the comment section. It's been really awesome to hear all your ideas, talk with you guys through problems. Anything I know, I'm always here to help. You can always, hit the comment section, or I'll drop like an email that you can hit me up in. We also have a Discord, got a whole website, built a blog on it. We have some sample packs. Feel free to reach out and get involved. It's always a good time with more people.